Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Domashevitz.
The Bills are beating the pants off the Seahawks. Turn off your TVs, turn on your YouTubes, and listen to the scrimmage.
Yeah. Also, I guess if people...
Did we post it anywhere?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I could probably pay attention to things like that.
That's lame. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Oh, no. My phone's blowing up with random Francis comments on our posts.
Already?
Not on the comments, but I've got like 5 notifications straight. Francis commenting on things.
Oh, Francis, get out of here.
Sea chickens getting plucked. No Dodgers talk? I'm out.
Yeah.
I heard that Shohei is in a great spot right now. Looking at the next game's Monday, right? It's tomorrow. So apparently whatever his shoulder injury was, it's not serious enough to keep him from playing.
Dodgers in 4.
Whoa. It's a bold prediction to make when they're already up 2-0.
I know, right? Enough of our chitter-chatter-patter. That's Justin Domashevitz. I'm Daniel Hargrove. Andrew Gross is our producer. We are sponsored by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz.
No relation.
What's the A stand for? And the Spivey Realty Group, the sponsor of our Spivey Athlete of the Week. And boy, do we have some good ones this week. But before we get to that, let's get it going with the local sports roundup.
Aberdeen's football team secured third place in the 2A Evergreen League with a pigtail crossover against the GSHL's 5 seed with a 28-14 win at Black Hills on Friday. According to the voice of Grays Harbor Sports, Ian Cope, who broadcasted the game, Micah Schroeder rushed for 278 yards and 3 touchdowns on 35 carries.
That's a lot.
Riley Wixon rushed for the Bobcats' other score. Aberdeen improved to 3-5 and 2-2 in league play, and with this win, and they will close their regular season with a non-leaguer at Tenino on Friday.
Elma improved to 2-1 in 1A Evergreen League play, 4-4 overall, with a 36-14 win at Hoquiam. I don't think that's real. I heard Hoquiam was up in that game. Isaac McGaffey passed for 101 yards and a touchdown for the Eagles, and also rushed for 47 yards and a score. McGaffey also intercepted a pass on defense. Ethan Camus, my guy, was McGaffey's favorite target, of course, catching 3 passes for 84 yards and a touchdown. Elma's Colt Landstrom and Bo Muller each returned an interception for a score, and Muller also scored a rushing touchdown. Elma will make the short trip to Montesano on Friday to face the Bulldogs, and Hoquiam will wrap up their season at Rochester.
Montesano, you can never decide between Crochester and Rochester.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You go back and forth.
Yeah.
You could just call them Rochester and split the difference.
Nah.
Montesano bolstered its playoff seeding prospects with a 34-28 home win over RPI top-ranked Nooksack Valley on Friday. Tyson Perry completed 25 of his 37 pass attempts for
That's a lot of pass attempts.
Yeah, it is. For 362 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Bulldogs. Torrin Kreitz caught 12 passes from Perry for 179 yards and a touchdown. Mason Rasmussen and Tarek Gunter also each caught a TD pass from Perry. Gunter's receiving score was a short pass. He took 67 yards to the house, giving the Bulldogs the lead with 4 minutes and 25 seconds left to play. Gunter also scored Montesano's only rushing touchdown in the contest, and Chris Tobar made 2 field goals. I was also told, although we don't have individual tackle stats, that Felix Romero had a, quote, ton of tackles in the game. Also, he recovered a fumble with about 2 minutes left in the game that kind of sealed it.
Kind of sealed it.
Well, they didn't end up. They ended up giving the ball back, but
yeah, it basically sealed it.
Basically sealed it.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Kyler Pranny wasn't on the field,
yeah,
then it sealed it.
You never know.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, our local B schools had a rough weekend of football. Raymond South Bend lost at Forks. Oh shoot, I picked Raymond South Bend.
I picked Fort.
PL Willabah Valley fell at Napavine 66-12. Ocosta lost to Nacelle 85-22. Wow, that's a score. Tahola lost to Sound Christian 54-35, and Lake Quinault was shut out by Northwest Christian 61-0. North Beach provided a bright spot with a 28-16 win at Chief Leshat.
Elma's Frank Roberts and Montesano's Haley Schweppe won their respective races at the 1A Evergreen League Championships on Thursday at Oaks Ridge Golf Course in Elma. Roberts ran a time of 16 minutes and 1 second to win the boys' race, pulling away from Rochester's Gunnar Morgan with a strong kick down the stretch for the victory. Benjamin Anderson from Montesano took third. Riker Maxfield from Hoquiam took fourth. And in the girls' race, Montesano standout sophomore Haley Schweppe performed as expected. Oh, I already said that.
Schweppe sweep.
But she cruised to victory with a time of 18 minutes and 58 seconds, with her sister Samantha Schweppe not far behind her in second place with a time of 19 and 20 seconds, and Zoe Ray finishing in third. So a 1-2-3 sweep there. There's been a lot of that this season for Montesano in the girls' cross-country side.
The Schweppe sweep, Monty sweep. The Aberdeen cross-country program had a banner day on Wednesday. Apparently, if you want to run a lot, go to Grace Harbor Schools.
Yeah.
They
Sounds
on
awful.
Wednesday, they swept the individual races, earning a team title at the 2A Evergreen Conference Championships at Pioneer Park in Tumwater.
Tumwater has a Pioneer Park too.
That's the wrong Pioneer Park.
Oh.
Senior Henry Nelson led the Bobcat boys to the overall team championship with a victory in the boys 5K varsity race. Nelson won with a time of 16 minutes and 55 seconds, cruising to a victory. Really like cruising in these. Over Tumwater's Joshua Morgan, who placed second with a time of over 17.6 seconds. Freshman Cecil Gamalius placed third, Jacob Halleck placed fifth, and Toby Nelson placed ninth, all joining Henry as Aberdeen All-Leaguers. Everyone in the top 10 is All-League. The team competition came down to the fifth and final placement, figured into the overall team score. So this guy usually doesn't get most of the love, but Aberdeen junior Zeke Olson placed 18th for that top spot. So Aberdeen won the team overall league title. In the girls' race, Aberdeen's Aylin?
Looks like Aylin to
We'll
me.
go with Aylin. Aylin Haggard continued her stellar sophomore season with a league championship run of 18 minutes and 54 seconds, placing first by more than a minute and a half over Tumwater's Alexandra Broom. Take that, Tumwater. Fellow Bobcat sophomore Serenity Allred earned all league honors with a 10th place finish. Whew.
Moving on to girls prep soccer, Elma remained one game behind league leading Montesano with a 4-0 shutout victory over Hoquiam on Thursday at Davis Field in Elma. The Eagles, with a 7-5-3 overall record, improved to 6-1 in 1A Evergreen League play and took control of the game early, scoring 3 goals in the first 10 minutes against the Grizzlies. And that game sets up a huge game on Tuesday between Elma and Montesano at Davis Field, I think at 7 o'clock. That's going to be kind of a de facto league title game. Elma can even the score and have the same record in league as Montesano if they win that one. And last time those two teams played, Monty did win a close game, but Beta Valentine went out with a head injury really early in that contest. So now that Beta is back, it'll be interesting to see the Eagles go at full strength against Monty.
Aberdeen took a big step towards securing a postseason berth with a 3-0 win over Schmelton on senior night at Stewart Field in Aberdeen. The Bobcats were led by all-league candidate Scotland LeCompte, who scored all 3 goals for the hat trick. In volleyball, Ocosta locked up the top spot in the 1B Coastal League with a straight set victory over Mary M. Knight on Thursday in Westport. The Wildcats are 13-2 overall and 11-1 in league play, and they beat the Owls 25-16, 25-18, and 25-16 to win the league title in their first season in 1B Coastal. It has been a really great season for Ocosta, records being broken all over the place. Hoquiam secured no worse than third place in the 1A Evergreen League with a straight set victory over Elma on Thursday at Elma High School. The Grizzlies defeated the Eagles by scores of 25-15, 25-16, and 25-10. Hoquiam was led by setter Caitlin Broadhead, who had dished out 23 assists, and outside hitter Aaliyah Kennedy, who scored a game-high 12 kills to go along with 4 aces. And that will do it for our roundup of local sports. Our round local sports up.
So I think it is interesting to consider, now that we're getting down towards the end of the season. Obviously, cross country already having league championships and stuff.
Golf
has had league championships.
Yep.
I'm assuming districts probably happening soon if they haven't happened already.
Yep.
The weird thing about boys golf is they have to wait until the spring
so
for
dumb.
state. They have to wait through 2 full seasons and then go play state golf.
It's so dumb.
But yeah, cool things happening in golf, cool things happening in volleyball. In the 1A league, Monty's been kind of leading that all year. I noticed in the most recent Evans computer rankings, they're number 10 in the state. Hoquiam has lost to Monty 2 times, but won all the rest of their league games. Real competitive volleyball going on in the 1A Evergreen. But I do think that soccer match on Tuesday is going to be really, really fun. This Monty-Elma girls soccer rivalry over the last few years has been huge. Like, both of these teams, both these programs have been really good, and it's been through like different sets of players even. Some really good graduating players on both of those teams over the last few years, and they've been not only competitive with each other in league, but they've been winning district titles. And Monty had 2 years in a row that they go into the state semifinals, and it's been a great rivalry. And you've got the added juice to it of Elma knowing, we lost to you last time, but we didn't have our school record breaking goal scorer, because Beta Valentine, we posted earlier when she hit the 100 career goals mark.
Right.
In the newspaper article from the Daily World, by the way, check out Daily World, dailyworld.com, go subscribe, support our local news affiliates. But Beta scored her 104th goal this week, which unofficially ties a school record.
Nice.
So I don't know how they verify whether a school record is official. I guess high school is always kind of weird, and the record books sometimes get a little murky.
Yeah.
But it sounds like if Beta scores one more goal in the rest of the season, then she will hold that record on her own, which is pretty cool.
That's
so
awesome.
Having her back for that matchup could really tip the scales.
Absolutely. A couple things we didn't get to. Montesano locked up the league title for volleyball. Aberdeen swept WF West in volleyball, which is awesome, on their senior night. And I thought there was one other thing that I wanted to bring up.
I have Aberdeen swim and dive.
Oh, do you have some swim and dive stuff for us?
Just real briefly.
Swive?
We got an email from our
Dim?
friend Rob Burns. The Aberdeen girls swim and dive team finished 2nd overall at the Kelso Invitational, which is a massive swim and dive meet where there's teams from classes from 1A all the way through 4A. And Aberdeen girls finished 2nd in that one as a team. Maya Hood took 1st overall in the 100 butterfly and 4th overall in the 100 backstroke. So great individual performance there by Maya Hood and phenomenal team performance. There's been really great swimming performances from Aberdeen recently, both in the girls program and the boys program.
Sorry, I got distracted. The Seahawks are
did somebody leave a screen on that Daniel can see?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. My bad.
I'm just wondering why Geno Smith's still in. Are they that worried that Sam Howell is going to look awesome that they're like, oh, we better not take Geno out, even though we're getting blowed out in the fourth quarter.
6 minutes and 50 seconds.
And they're down 3 touchdowns.
21 points.
Yeah, so why not, put somebody else in and
Thank you, Hannah. You saved the show.
Hannah turned
Appreciate
the game off. Now I'm sad. Anyway, you're talking about swimming?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thank you. I believe you heard all of it.
I heard all of it.
Okay.
But
But were you listening?
The
I didn't
sound
listen to
waves
any of it.
entered his ear hole.
Yes.
You must listen, but also hear.
Oh.
And hear, but also listen.
There you go. I think that's the
Both.
difference. Yeah. I think
You
you
have
can
to-
hear without listening.
Yeah.
I don't think you can listen without hearing.
Well, if you ask
Unless
my wife,
you're using sign language.
if you sign language,
Did I say language?
I think you did. If you ask my wife, I neither listen nor hear. very often.
Oh,
That's kind of my resting position, is not listening.
I think 15 years in radio blew out my eardrums enough so that sometimes my wife gives me the benefit of the doubt that I just didn't hear.
Yeah, that's very gracious of her.
Yeah. But
So, what of this stuff? We already kind of touched on Monty Elma girls soccer while you were watching the Seahawks game.
No, that was
there anything else from
swimming while I was watching the Seahawks game.
It was a little bit of both.
Yeah, you're right. Column A, column B.
What were anything else from the roundup that you want to talk about a little bit more? Do you have more you wanted to say about Aberdeen's football win? I know you listened to a lot of that broadcast and huge performance by Micah Schroeder.
I listened to some of that broadcast.
Okay.
I wouldn't say a lot, but the end, great call by voice of Grace Harbor High School Sports, Ian Cope. The performance by Schroeder was just awesome. You don't hear about 35 carries a game for a high school athlete very often anymore. And it's cool to see that they decided to ride the hot hand and just feed him the ball, just feed him the rock. And he delivered. And I think that that's awesome to see. It seems like they made a couple of other adjustments that seemed like came up well for him. And I talked to one of the players today at church, and he was like, "Yeah, we threw the ball twice. We just kept feeding Micah the ball." And he was like, even one of the passes went to Micah. So he was just like, we just rode him to victory. And I mean, you rush for 278 yards on those 35 carries. I mean, that's enough for the confidence. Are you doing the calculations right now?
No, I was
yards per carry.
having a text conversation.
Oh, so now who's distracted?
Well, mine was official show related sourcing.
He averaged 7.9 yards a carry.
That's pretty darn good for a game that you get that many carries.
Exactly. That's nuts. And usually in high school football, you don't see quarterbacks throw that much, but Tyson Perry's arm must be pretty tired.
I would say so. And, a lot of it, like, he did throw some deep balls, and he did connect on some deep balls. They were doing a lot of short pass, let a guy run. They were getting him on rollouts and hitting out routes near the sideline. So they did a nice mix of stuff, I think. And it was a little wet. It's not like it wasn't like pouring, but it was
like
wet
today.
out. Yeah, it was wet out, so he had to overcome that. I think if we're shifting from Aberdeen to Monty football, I just want to make sure we clarify for Aberdeen the information that we have received is that what Aberdeen has clinched is a pigtail game.
Right.
That if they beat the Greater St. Helens 5, and they get to host, if they beat the Greater St. Helens 5 seed, which I don't know who that will be, they get into this round of 32, which is replacing the district crossovers. So this is not a playoff game. This is a pigtail game to get into the playoffs.
Yes.
And if they win the pigtail game, the playoffs they're getting into is not state playoffs. It's the playoff round that's replacing the district crossover round.
Which is dumb. More on that later.
So it's basically you win the pigtail game, you get into whether you want to call it the district round or the regional round. It's like a round of football that gets you to state.
Is added again.
Yeah.
How is any of that different than playoffs?
Dude,
Isn't playoffs like the part of the season where you're no longer playing regular season games and the games are like important in determining who gets to keep going?
This pigtail game is kind of like, I mean, you could by that definition call it playoffs, but it's a playoffs to get into the normal playoffs.
Right.
So like back when
I understand the idea of the play-in game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just think it's dumb to draw a line that like, oh, this isn't playoffs. No, it's after the regular season. It's playoffs.
It's you know what? It's a fair distinction. The only reason that
the first round of the playoffs is single elimination.
Yeah, but you're the only two teams playing in that elimination,
and you can get a bye in the first round of the playoffs by not being in the bottom.
But if you
bottom four.
But if you didn't happen to be tied with another team, well, I guess in this situation, it makes more sense. Normally in this situation, when you're getting a play-in game, it's because it's two teams who they're just trying to figure out who gets to go. They have no other way of deciding it, so you get to play an extra game to figure out who goes to the playoffs. That seems a little bit different from
that
this.
would seem different,
right?
Okay.
Like, and so that's normally
that would be like a tiebreaker with
exactly
when you don't have enough
since this
information
isn't
to decide tiebreakers.
Yeah, since this isn't technically a tiebreaker, then yeah, you're right.
Further evidence of the fact that this is different from a playoff game is it's going to be played on Tuesday, and it's not normal rules. It's like 2 shortened periods.
What?
It's not a full football game.
Oh, weird.
It's like a shorter football game.
So it's like
it
a
is
Kansas.
like a tie-
It's
It
a
is
tiebreaker.
like a tiebreaker.
That's why the only reason I was making the distinction is not to try to like minimize it.
Right.
It's just that it's important to note that this is not a normal playoff
That
round.
is weird. Okay,
it's
so
a separate thing that gets you
like
to
a
the playoff round.
tiebreaker.
Yeah.
It is a pigtail tiebreaker. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not exactly a tiebreaker. But it's.
What about a ponytail tiebreaker?
I don't know.
Oh, it's a Kansas City ponytail. Pigtail.
Yes.
Sure.
Piggy barbecue.
I did think it was pretty cool to see that Aberdeen kind of did the thing that we've all been waiting for it to happen all season, which is like you have this great player. Micah Schroeder's an absolute stud.
Yeah.
Just give him the ball. Keep giving him the ball.
Yep.
They definitely did that. They definitely focused on running the ball instead of trying to pass, and it's certainly worked out for them. Not that Black Hills is like the greatest of opponents, but you have a 5-team league, and everyone's playing for third because one of the teams is Tumwater and one of the teams is WF West, and you came out on top of the pile of those teams that were fighting for third.
Yeah.
So it is a very significant thing for Aberdeen.
I think I kind of want to shift to calling them Chehalis.
Okay.
Like the Daily World always called them Chehalis, and Rob told us that.
Instead of
WF West. But I've always called them WF West growing up.
Because every time you say WF West, I'm like, who's that? Oh yeah, Chehalis.
I don't know. I think I'm ready. Like we don't call Aberdeen JP Weatherwax or whatever it is. What is it?
I don't know.
Something Weatherwax.
It's because that's not what they're publicly known as. They're publicly known as Aberdeen.
Yeah, so it's Chehalis publicly known as Chehalis? Or
They're
WF
listed
West?
as WF West on everything I've ever seen.
Oh, then why was the
sports-related.
Daily World always calling them Chehalis?
Well, at some point it changed. I think like they were known as Chehalis for a while, and then I think they changed the name to WF West. But it was before my time, so I wasn't a part of it.
Gotcha.
But I do know that I submitted articles that said WF West in them, and it always got changed to Chehalis.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah. Anyway, I think I was very stunned
Yeah.
to see that stat line.
Yeah.
Micah Schroeder, and we don't have these.
I thought it was a typo.
Ian is a really good stat keeper. We trust him, but the official stats always come back a little different. So we don't know when Aberdeen's official stats come out in the Daily World at some point, hopefully today. I checked like an hour ago and they weren't out yet.
Ian's usually really, really good.
Yeah.
Francis says that his diploma says Weatherwax, not Aberdeen. So
Interesting.
I just now learning that Francis got a high school diploma. I am shocked. Shocked. That when I said that I was stunned that Aberdeen kept giving the ball to Micah Schroeder that much, the shock of the show is that Francis graduated high school.
I mean, talking to 3 different people here who didn't graduate high school, I mean, it is kind of surprising.
I got my good enough degree.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I got a homeschool
I
degree.
graduated.
What is the homeschool degree? I was under the impression that when you finish homeschooling, that you have to have some kind of a high school equivalent. That's why I took the GED.
No.
No, that's not
In
the
fact,
case.
taking the GED disqualifies you for some things. Like
Wait, really?
Yeah, you won't get into the Marines with the GED.
Dang
What?
it! I really wanted to get into the Marines.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
The Marines all of a sudden turning their nose up at people
Yeah.
with
They're
GEDs?
like, hold up now.
I bet the Army would let you in though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
100%.
To be fair, the Marines now might let you in anyway. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're a little bit
Pretty soon they're going to be drafting people who have a
No,
GED.
I mean, my parents did print up a little like homeschool like diploma for me, but I started taking college classes when I was 16,
okay.
15, 16. Anyway, so I just went from there. Like I've also never taken an SAT.
Andrew, did you do Running Start?
I did, but
He also took an SAT because he wanted to prove how smart he was, which is real smart.
Does
I
Running
don't
Start?
Remember what?
Maybe
I
this
don't
is a
remember
conversation
the
for
details.
another time.
I'm here for it.
If you're a homeschool kid, is it different to complete high school, do you like if you guys did running start, or was that like you were already technically qualified to have completed high school because you were part of running start?
It doesn't matter.
Why did my parents make me take the GED?
That's what I'm wondering.
That's what I want to know.
I don't know. Your parents.
That's something to discuss between you and your parents.
Yeah. So
Waste of like 3 days.
yes. So you did running start, right?
No, I didn't go to college until after I graduated high school.
Okay. Did you have to take any like entrance exam or
Yeah,
anything?
yeah. I took the entrance exam.
At Grace Harbor College?
Yeah.
That's all I did. So I took that. They placed me into one high school level math class. Everything else, they were like, you're okay to be in college. And I took my high school level math class at Grace Harbor College, and then I was just good to go as a college student.
I do know that on some job applications, so you guys both have college degrees. I didn't finish college. On some job applications, it'll ask you like, do you have a high school diploma equivalent?
Right.
So maybe my parents were like, this guy's not finishing college. We better make sure that he has something to prove he's not an idiot.
That's probably
what it was.
That's probably it. Good job, Mr. and Mrs. D. Yeah. Well done. They saw the future. They're like, you know what? You're going to want this.
Anyway.
Degrees are a sham. Anyway.
My mom actually had to make a high school transcript for me for what it's worth.
Why?
Transferring credits to WSU.
Oh, right. Dude, yeah. 4-year transfers get messy.
Yeah.
Especially if you go straight from running start. Like, I stayed at Grace Harbor for an extra year after running start, and that makes everything go way smoother.
Way smoother.
Way smoother.
Even if you don't do anything. You don't have to go to school. If you just don't go do anything for a year, all of a sudden you're not transferring directly. You're
looked at as a junior, like you should be, instead of a freshman who happens to have a
college credit.
Degree. So if you go even though you graduate from Grace Harbor with your AA at the same time you do high school, you go to a college and they treat you as a freshman.
Yep.
You have to do all of the stupid freshman things.
Yeah.
If you stay for another year, or you, as Andrew mentioned, just take a year off and go to school as a junior, then you don't have to do all the stupid freshman things.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you have a 2-year degree? Okay, you transfer in here as a junior.
It's weird. Yeah.
It is weird, especially considering I have a son who just graduated with his associate's degree through Running Start, and he went to college, and they're not treating him like a college freshman.
Oh, good. Well,
so maybe
that's
things
have
changed.
School.
Oh,
Either
private school?
A, it might be private school. B, things have changed. Either way, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because for us, for Andrew, they had to fight to keep him out of the dorms because that was another policy as freshmen live in the dorm.
Well, that is the thing that's happening. Yeah, he had to live in the dorms because he's a freshman.
Yeah. See, and he's not actually a freshman.
But from a college. Yeah, okay. I guess I see what you're saying then.
Yeah.
This is riveting for all of our listeners.
I know. I'm sorry.
What?
My dad said, including the essay you skipped. I didn't skip it.
Wait a minute. If you skipped the essay, was this in high school?
I don't know.
If you skipped
get
high
this
school
out of the way before you ever consider running for anything.
I was going to say, if you skipped an essay in high school, you were a fraudulent graduate of high school, and that means your college degree is also null and void.
No, I definitely did. If it's what I'm thinking of, I did the essay. It was just, it's a whole nother story. It's a long story.
You're Jeff Winger from Community right now.
The dog ate
masquerading as a lawyer when you don't have a law degree.
The dog ate the
Pretty
essay.
Much.
Yeah.
That checks out.
So let's talk about Monty football.
Okay. Because that's where you were.
I was, yeah.
Well, for the second half.
We don't need to get into that.
You couldn't be bothered to go to the first half. You couldn't be bothered to go broadcast the game because you weren't feeling well. But, Montesano's going to win. I'll show up.
What I said was under the weather.
Under the weather.
And what I meant was...
Have you tried this bread yet, by the way?
What you meant was that there's weather going on overhead.
What I meant was I'm tired. It's been a long week. I have to drive 4 hours to Mix-something, Oregon to watch my son play college football on Saturday, which turned into a full 13-hour marathon of a day.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, I think I might benefit. My old body might benefit from resting for the night.
Right.
Well, the Bulldogs ruined that by...
Nick is checking in.
Yeah.
With that Monty upset.
Yeah.
What was the line on that, by the way?
I think it was 24. I think it was 24 points in favor of Nooksack.
Well,
Yeah, so Monty not
No.
only covered the spread, they spoiled it. Yeah.
no, it wasn't a 24-point spread. I would say it
I
was
feel
probably
like every
looking at the
time
spreads.
You
It was
guys
probably
talk
like
about high school odds. You should be required to, like, in really fast words after you're done talking about it, like, say that you're just talking.
betting on
you're
high
just
school sports is a
joking.
complete joke and should not be done by anybody, not even you degenerate gamblers. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, I have noticed, as Nick points out, don't be surprised if Monty is number 8 or 9 this week. I'm assuming he means in the coaches poll that's going to come out. I sent you guys pictures of where they are in the Evans rankings and the RPI. The updated RPI after this week has Monty at 8, and the Evans rankings has them at 7. So they're kind of regarded in the computer rankings, at least, as a top 7 or 8 team after this win over Nooksack. And Nooksack is ahead of them in both of these rankings, and I'm fine with that because Nooksack has a better record and they've played a brutal schedule. Up till this game, their only loss was to Tumwater, which is perhaps the best team in the state across all classifications.
Yeah.
So, I will point out though that if you're looking strictly at strength of schedule for opponents' win record, Montesano currently has the single toughest schedule by opponents' win percentage in entire State 1A. So they have played a brutal schedule also.
Which is hilarious, seeing what the rest of the league is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially compared to last year. So definitely, this is a huge win because as I was talking with my son last week after Monty lost to Rochester, and we were all kind of looking at it going, well, if they're going to lose to Rochester, they're probably not going to beat Nooksack. I changed my tune, obviously, picked them officially on our grid picks this
Of
past
course.
week and got it right.
You changed your tune after you convinced me otherwise, just like you've done like 3 times this year.
I have no idea what
On the
time.
show, you're like, oh, they're not going to win this game. Everything's lost. Will they even go 500? I'm picking money to win this week.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never manipulated you in any way, shape, or form.
You
But
could have gotten away with in that situation, but you manipulate me all the time.
assuming Monty can
You're
close...
probably doing it right now, and I don't even know it.
Well, I'm worried about the Elma game next week. Assuming Monty can finish the deal against Elma, which they will be favored in that game. I don't know what the point spread is. I'll have to collaborate with Nick on that. By the way,
Yeah.
Don't bet on high school sports. It's bad.
Yeah.
Monty will definitely be a heavy favorite against Elma, and assuming they can close the deal, they'll finish 6-3. 6-3 looks a lot different than 5-4.
Yes.
Especially when you can boast wins over currently the number 10 team in 2B in Napavine and currently the number 4, 5, or 6 team in 1A in Nooksack Valley. Those 2 wins will really bolster their seeding. I'm hoping that Nooksack win might be the difference between them having a home playoff game in the round of 24 and a road playoff game in the round of 24.
Right.
I think that's the big thing because the strength of schedule has been so tough. The computer rankings have loved Montesano all year.
Do we want to get into the rounds again
Yeah.
before or after a commercial break and before or after the Spivey Athlete of the Week?
Let's talk about playoffs and what we think we know.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And then we will do a commercial break and then we'll do Athlete of the Week.
Because we have more rumors to talk about all these playoffs, and hopefully Nick's still here. Nick says Monty
Minus 16 and a
minus
half.
$6.5. Yeah.
By the way, don't bet on high school sports.
Yeah,
That's
don't
bad.
bet on high school sports, but it's at least minus 20.
Yeah. So this is what we think we know. Okay. So with the 1A league, we've been talking about this since like week 3.
Yeah.
They're skipping the crossover round. They're shifting to seeding all the teams that would be in the crossover round,
Right.
putting them into a round of 24. It would have been 32, but apparently they came up one team shy of having a 32 team playoff because there's one 1A team that decided to suspend their football program for a year and another 1A team that decided to play a JV schedule because they didn't think they had a good enough team to play varsity. So those 2 teams dropping out put them one team under the threshold to have a full 32 team playoff.
Hosed us.
Yeah, so they'll have a 24 team playoff, and from what we've been told, the Evergreen 1A League is getting 3 teams into that round. if there ends up being a tie for third, which is possible, I don't know how that will be determined, who gets in and who doesn't. They might play a pigtail game to determine that. They might just go by tiebreakers, and if that's the case, Tenino beat Elma, so I think Elma would get the nod there. But I don't know the correct answer to that.
You mean Elma beat Tenino?
Elma beat Tenino. Did I say it backwards?
Yeah.
Elma beat Tenino. I knew what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elma beat Tenino, so I think Elma would get the nod if there is, but if not, they might play a pigtail. But Evergreen 1A will get 3 teams into this round of 24. These 24 teams will be seeded 1 through 24. The top 12 teams will host the bottom 12 teams.
Yeah.
1, 24, 2, 23, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Hopefully with some amount of consideration for travel.
Doubtful.
But
it's the WIAA. They're like, Hoquiam, let's send you to Deer Park.
Seeding committees have
Freeman, you should go to Montesano.
Seeding committees have not tended to take travel into consideration in opening round playoff games. But there's
we care about school spending. Here's a 6-hour drive.
Exactly.
On a bus that gets 10 miles to the gallon.
I've driven to Riverside. Deer Park has driven to Montesano.
Yeah.
Like, these things happen in opening rounds.
Driven to Freeman.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Stupid.
So the 24 teams will be seeded and matchups will be generated based on that. But during...
I hope so, Torin. Torin asks, does this mean next year it can go back to 32 teams?
It can.
Hopefully.
They are leaving the possibility. We have been told they are leaving the possibility open that 1A could get back to 32 teams next year. But that would mean one of these teams that doesn't have a football program would decide to have one.
Yeah.
But
they don't care about your high school experience, Torin.
One thing that has been speculated, and I don't know how...
They're just in charge of it.
I don't know if it's official or how likely it is, that when they release the matchups for the round of 24, they might not publicly attach seeds to them. They might just give you the matchups, and then based on what happens in that, all the winners will go into the state round, and then they will reseed them by seeding committee, taking into consideration what happened in the opening round. It's also possible they might just seed 1 through 24, let all of it fly, and then still reseed. I think the idea behind not putting the seeds out in the opening one is that if they make these seeds and then change the seeds based on how the games play out, that people are going to get really mad about how they change the seeds.
Absolutely.
So we'll have to wait and see how that works out, but that's what we've been told for now. And the real state playoffs will be the final 12 teams that win those opening round of 24 games.
So dumb.
Yeah.
When you have big tournaments, you know what you don't do? You don't go 24-1, 23-2, 23... No, you split it up like the NCAA tournament where you've got 4 16s and 4 1s, and you split it up a little bit so it's not just like, hey, we really hate the district round for no really good reason. Let's just have the number 1 team in the state play the 24th best team in the state. That'll be good football. No, that's going to be a 70-0 game. What's the point of that? And then to have like 6 of those games. Like, that's dumb. And if you don't put seeds next to it, it's like, oh yeah, let's, just have a bunch of random matchups, throughout the state. Some of them will be across the state based on our random decisions, but we won't tell you what those decisions actually are.
And
we don't tell you what those seeds actually are. We're just saying that these are the matchups. Yeah. And then after that, we'll take the more information that we have from those matchups, and then we'll give you the actual seeds. Almost like, a district round, except for district rounds are at least local, so teams aren't traveling all over the freaking state for no reason. Like, if they do that, they don't even release the seeds. What a load of crap, because they're just using another playoff round to then seed everything, just like they would in districts. Like, if you're going to make people travel across the state, give them the numbers so they know what ranking they are, at least do something like that. This is so dumb. If you're going to take out the district round, but you're not going to tell people what the actual seeds are, and then you're still going to be like, this still isn't the state tournament. Even though we're seeding it 12 versus the 1, which would imply that's all one tournament, right? Wouldn't that all be one tournament? As Andrew was saying, this is playoffs versus not playoffs before our show. If you're having a 24 play a 1, that's all one tournament. And if you're going to take that away, then give me a break. We have an error on our screen that says YouTube is not responding. Maybe the WIA shut me down.
No, well,
what's going on?
It's working well so far.
Okay. So upset about this. Because, Justin, I'm so upset about this, not so much because it'll hurt the final product of finding out who the best team in the state is. That's not the problem. The problem is they constantly send teams zigzagging across the state when they don't have to. And over here on the coast and over on the eastern side of the state, on the very edge in the Spokane, in the Pullman, in the Deer Park, the Freeman, we constantly have teams driving 6+ hours across the state. And it's stupid.
Yeah, I mean...
And now they're just doing it again.
I know that...
And they keep saying it's for these reasons.
We talked about this last week, too. Like, the reason for this change from, like, a strictly competitive balance standpoint is... Like, I get it. Like, the idea is you always have a team or two that's left out of the state playoffs when there are teams, a couple teams in there, and maybe 2, maybe 3 teams that are in there that these other teams are better than because some districts are better than others. And, you know, truth be told, a lot of times it's District 4. Like, it's our district that gets... It's a huge district with a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And we end up getting some teams into the state playoffs that probably don't really belong there. And so perhaps it's a reason why I prefer to advocate for the crossover rounds. But I like the crossover rounds for multiple reasons. One is the reason that you were discussing, which is too many opening rounds with seeding. I have had to drive so far.
Right.
Like, literally across the state.
Yeah.
You know, I use Riverside as an example, but also, you know, we've had teams from way over there have to travel to Montezano to play.
Yes.
Like Toppenish came over and played. I don't know how far that is, but it's far. Deer Park, which is almost as far as you can get for 1A, had to come play an opening round game in Montezano.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't want more of that because it's horrible. It makes it really hard for fans to travel.
Yes.
So even the furthest team in District 4 is Columbia White Salmon. It's like 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So even if you have like a worst case scenario, you're almost cutting your trip in half. But the other thing is, I feel like I'm really going to miss the Trico rivalries in playoff games.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss the idea that you follow the Trico League, you try to figure out where your team's going to finish, where this other team's going to finish, who's going to play who in a crossover. And I think it's a little bit more engaging, and it keeps, you know, fans, and it's fun for fans and for people, for media, and then you end up playing a lot of the same teams over and over again in the district crossovers, and I just like it. I like the rivalries. I like the familiarity.
Yeah.
I don't like going into a Sunday leading up to a playoff game having no idea where I'm going to be in 5 days.
Right.
And not knowing if I'm going to have to drive to Riverside or Freeman, or if we're going to be playing, you know, in, you know, somewhere that's really close by. Like, are we going to play, you know, the center or something that's way more reasonable to drive to?
Right.
So I would advocate for keeping the district crossovers, but I also understand that part of the reason that that they want to switch to this from district crossovers is because some of our teams from our district end up getting in when they probably don't belong there.
And if you want to reduce the amount of teams that get to state from our district, do it. But rearranging the whole system because of one small problem instead of fixing that problem is dumb.
Yeah.
And I'm probably reacting to this more viscerally because of the basketball debacle and what I've seen the regional round do to just destroy what was a great tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably why I'm so upset about this. But it's like, regional matchups are a good thing. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than having teams in high school have 6-hour travel days, 7-hour travel days? Limit that as much as possible.
Yeah, and when you get to the later rounds of the playoffs, those kind of things are inevitable.
Yeah.
You know,
But
we
even
don't need
then-
to create an extra opening round to have teams drive 6 hours.
Even then, Like, you can't tell me a good reason why in the opening round of the state football playoffs, Hoquiam or why Montesano is driving to Riverside. Playing Ellensburg. It's still easily a home game for one of those teams. Like, don't make them go the full distance. This is high school. They're high school kids who have to go to class, who have to do all these other things.
I know
and they're kids. Why are you making them travel across the state?
There's logistical issues with, like, trying to have when you try to have neutral site games, like, a lot of teams are going to be wanting to play on those same fields for neutral site games, and so you have to, like, schedule, like, it gets a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, almost like those regional basketball games.
But then also,
they
like,
have it.
I hate to keep harping on Riverside.
Freaking
That
Riverside,
was a crappy venue.
Yeah.
It was a horrible, crappy, muddy grass field, and they didn't even have a booth for me to broadcast the game from. I broadcast the game from on the roof above the grandstands with a tarp that was not keeping the rain off our equipment.
And
like,
that was a state football game.
That was a state opener. So,
Garbage.
like, these kind of things, I think that there's probably a better way to figure them out.
Absolutely.
Also, I'm noticing Nick in the comments saying that Trico is getting 5 bids. There's been a little confusion, Nick, and hopefully you can answer this for me, but a little bit of confusion over whether there are 7 or 8 allocations for District 4. I heard initially there was 8. I was also told there was 7. But I think my understanding is there are 8 allocations. Evergreen's getting 3, Trico's getting 5. Possibility that information could end up being different, but that was my understanding.
And if you're worried about too many teams coming out of District 4, maybe don't give the Trico League 5 teams.
Daniel, what do you think of this justification for not releasing the seeds? Nick is saying that by not releasing the seeds, they'll be able to mask scenarios and they'll be able to minimize travel without offending people that they're getting sent to the wrong seed.
I think our contention is they won't do that.
Yes, if they actually do that, then that would be a bonus.
Yeah.
And that would make sense.
That would be a really good reason to
What
have
I've
the seeds.
seen from the WIAA in general is they give 2 craps about how far a team has to drive. So if that's the case,
2 whole craps?
2 whole craps.
Wow.
They only give 1 crap,
number
which
4?
is not enough craps.
Oh.
That's my problem, is I've seen it so much.
So William McGaffey says his contact said that Week 10 games will be played where no team will travel more than 3 hours or stay overnight. Again, if they do that, that would be great.
That'd be great.
And hopefully that doesn't lead to there being some really imbalanced matchups here. Yeah. Also, if you're going to do that, why not just go back to the district cross?
Exactly. That's my point. If you're saying that too many teams are getting in from one league or another, I would much rather have them at the end of the season be like, hey, this league's really good and this league's not. Sorry, guys. This league gets an extra team in and this league gets 1 less. Like, that would make... I'd be so much more fine with that.
I would fight about that if that kept my team out.
Yes, obviously. But that would make so much more sense than let's restructure the whole thing. And again, I say that because of what happened to basketball. Anyway, it's time for a commercial break because we have the Spivey Athlete of the Week to get to. We've got other stuff to get to. And you know what? Justin and I have a whole other thing we have to get to tonight. And if we're late, that won't be good. So, a word from our sponsors.
Do you have a legal situation and need someone on your side? Let the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz be your advocate. If you've been the victim of medical malpractice, suffered a personal injury, or need representation with real estate law, small business law, or estate planning, let Jeff Domashevitz put his 29 years of experience to work for you. Call Jeff Domashevitz today at 360-612-3991 or visit domashevitzlaw.com. That's DAMASIEWICZLAW.com.
Thank you again to our sponsors, the Law Office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz and Spivey Realty Group, the sponsors of our Spivey Athlete of the Week, which is what we are getting to now. Justin, we got some good ones.
Yeah, some great ones.
Holy crap, dude. Did you just put the whole Montesano football roster on this thing?
Doesn't he usually?
Every single nomination that's on this list was an outside nomination that I received from someone else. I did not put a single person on this list myself.
No relation. Did you text Peyton and say, hey, I need you to nominate these football guys?
No.
Dustin Jamashevitz.
I'm getting some conflicting information here that's really freaking me out.
That seems to be the actual story of this football postseason.
Is that we can't figure out what they're actually doing?
There's conflicting information from everyone, and ADs don't know what's going on.
Because
So what's the conflicting
initially we
information?
were told that District 4 is getting 8 allocations. Now some people are saying District 4 is getting 7 allocations. I can't find the official information. I will have to try to dig for the official information. But
Good luck.
It really changes things because Nick was saying in there that he heard Trico and he is in that area, so he would be pretty well plugged in. Even though it seems like a lot of people don't know what's going on, that Trico was getting 5. I was told Evergreen's getting 3. So if that's the case and there's only 7, that doesn't make sense. The math doesn't math. If there are only 7 allocations, then I would think it's possible that the Trico 5 would play the Evergreen 3 for a pigtail game, just like they're doing in 2A with GSHL and Evergreen, but I don't know. Again, we will try our best to keep everyone updated with this information as we get it. And if there's anybody from inside the programs who knows, like for certain, and can verify what the information is, I'd love it if you'd reach out to us and let us know what's going on. But for now, we're going to move on to our Spivey Athlete of the Week. And we got a couple of cross-country runners and a slew of football players.
Yeah.
I know I did like a little analysis of like, okay, here's what we've picked so far this season. And I went back to like the beginning of fall. We have had one volleyball player. It was an Acosta volleyball player.
Yeah, she broke 2 school records in one night.
Right. So then we get to like the end of these seasons, and sometimes I'm like, man, there's like a Montesano volleyball team that's just run away with the league.
Yeah.
And all we've had is honorable mentions from it. I start to feel bad, but I'm also like, I got to remind myself every week is its own animal. Like we can't just look at things as a whole. We have to treat every week individually. And the only thing we ever do is look at it and say, we feel really similarly about these 2 players. This one's won it before. This one hasn't.
Right.
And we kind of give the nod to the person who hasn't had it before. So I'll enter this with kind of that thought in my head is I'm not going to try to stress about the fact that we don't have a Monty volleyball athlete of the week. So I'm going to start from the bottom, actually. Aylin Haggard from Aberdeen Cross Country. She's a sophomore. She's been dominating all year. That was the one from the roundup that we learned at the league championships beat the second place runner by a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And I think that's been pretty standard. We've been talking about Schweppy sweeps.
Yep.
And I know every course is different too. But Aylin Haggard has been running competitive times, if not better times, than what Haley Schweppy from Montesano has been dominating the 1A Evergreen League with all year.
Yeah, that's what I just noticed.
We haven't mentioned her much outside of just putting her name in the roundup for winning stuff. So I want to make sure Aylin Haggard gets her flowers for how dominant she's been this year.
Yeah.
We got a nomination for Frank Roberts from Elma Cross Country, and this person sent me the nomination and said, hey, I was going to nominate someone from the 1A Evergreen Championships, and yeah, the Monty girls took the top 3 spots, but since Haley and Samantha were the athletes of the week last week, I'll nominate the Elma runner who won the boys' side. So Frank Roberts getting the nomination for Elma Cross Country.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Aylin Haggard, but also Henry Nelson.
Yeah, Henry Nelson for Aberdeen. Yeah, like I said though, these were all they're all outside nominations, so they're very well could. If you want to throw more names in there, feel free.
Well, my dad texted me the Aberdeen runner.
Yeah,
but
there's
multiple Aberdeen runners.
Nope, that's who he's talking about. That's a nomination
for
Henry Nelson, who has been Athlete of the Week before, I believe,
and he's been a stud as well. So it's gonna be hard. Let's see. Checking the comments. Oh, Deshaun's on again. What's up, my guy? Oakland Middle School 8th grade varsity football went 5-0-1 with a tie.
5-1-0.
He put 5-1-0, but the tie being with Rochester.
Oh, okay, got it.
So we would normally say that 5-0-1 tie with Rochester with 24. Wish there was an overtime in middle school football. Yeah, I get that. But yeah,
I, as someone who's attended many junior high football games, I do not wish there was an overtime in middle school football. I'm always happy when those ones are over. Yeah, so congrats, Hoquiam. I mean, we've been saying it. Good things down the pipe. Their junior high programs. They've got some really good. And sixth grade program also, I believe, was good this year.
And
good turnout too.
Another cool thing is he sent me some more information on that on a Facebook message. The game, so they went undefeated. They had the one tie, but their game with Miller against Aberdeen was 9-28. So that's kind of cool. That like Aberdeen's also got some good players coming up too. So should be fun to see. They did beat the Tumwater Feeder as well, but
a win over Bush is a big deal.
It is a big deal because those Tumwater kids.
Yeah, but by the time they get to high school, like everyone good from the Black Hills feeder program is just going to end up at Tumwater anyway.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
They'll be fine. Tumwater's going to be fine. We don't need to worry about them.
Tumwater will be fine. It's just
don't worry about Tumwater.
It's just that Bush has a lot of Tumwater kids in it, so it's impressive to beat them.
My dad clarified his statement.
Yeah.
He said the football runner from Aberdeen.
Oh. I already put Henry Nelson on here, so he's already on the official nominees list.
Yeah. I don't know how we don't give it to Micah Schroeder.
Hold on a second. Pause. He just said the runner from Aberdeen, and he thought we were going to know that he meant football.
Right. Yeah, that's on him.
Yeah. So let's run through the list of footballers that we have. It's Micah Schroeder from Aberdeen. Huge, massive rushing stats in a game that locked up the pigtail crossover with a chance to get them to that Week 10.
Round of 32?
We're round of 32 in 2A, yeah. From Monty football, Torrin Kreitz, Tyson Perry, Felix Romero, Tarek Gunter. Tarek scored 2 touchdowns, one on the ground, one receiving, and the receiving touchdown he had ended up being the game winner. Felix Romero,
a sick play too.
It was. Felix Romero, while individual tackle stats were not available, we were told he had a ton of tackles, provided a huge spark on them for defense. He's on his 3rd week back from a knee injury. And it's been huge for Monty to get him back. He forced a fumble earlier in the game, and then in the final 2 minutes, he recovered a fumble that pretty much sealed the game for Monty. Tyson Perry, while he did have some miscues in the game, 2 interceptions and a fumble, but he threw for 3 touchdowns, well over 300 yards, made some really nice throws, including a couple of really nice deep balls. I appreciated the way he was able to hit the out routes on the rollouts and like a lot of the stuff where you get the ball in the hands of your guys and let them go make a play. And then Torrin Kreitz, 12 catches, 179 yards and a touchdown is a huge receiving day. And I think because Torrin had a groin injury, and then at the end of the game with his shoulder pads off, he had ice on his shoulder. Like the kid's banged up, he's playing through it, and didn't just play through it, but he had a phenomenal game.
Right.
So those were the nominees from Montesano football.
You also have some stuff from last week.
Yeah. These are mentions because when I listened back to the show from last week, my biggest regret was that I did a really terrible job of acknowledging why the Grace Harbor Gulls players were nominated for Athlete of the Week. So I put the stats in here so I could tell people what they were. There was 2 players who played for the B09 and B10 teams, which is, I guess, would be like boys 13U and 14U, right? Because it's their birth year is the reason they put the 01009.
Yeah,
okay.
B09. Yeah.
So
for a second there, I was like, U9? Why do we care so much about 8-year-olds playing soccer? And I was like, oh, wait a second. It's B09.
Right.
They were born in 09.
Right. So for Jordan for the Gulls, had a hat trick and an assist for the B10 team, and then 2 goals and an assist for B09. And his total through 12 games combined with the 2 teams is 10 goals and 3 assists. And then Carlos for the Grace Harbor Gulls had a goal for B10 and then 2 assists for B09, and his total through 10 games this season is 7 goals and 8 assists. So those guys aren't part of the Athlete of the Week conversation, but I did a very poor job last week of saying why they were nominated, and so I just wanted to reiterate what that was for this week. But so we've got the choices that we have, and
My guy.
I can tell you why I find this personally difficult.
Yes.
Because,
Sorry. Deshaun said, didn't Monty lose to Rochester?
you know, why you,
Yeah, but that was last week. That was last week.
Deshaun, why are you doing this to me?
Which is why so shocking that they beat Nooksack this year. Or this week.
I've never heard anyone pronounce Nooksack that way.
Right? Have you seen it, though?
No.
Look how it's spelled.
Yeah, oh yeah.
N-O-O-K? That's nuke. Nukesack.
No,
It's
nuke
definitely
is
not
I think that-
N-U-K-E.
If
I know, but
Yeah.
if you, like, is there any other word that's...
book,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good call.
O makes
Look.
that sound.
Dookie?
D-O-O-K.
Dookie?
cook,
Dookie.
It's not Dookie.
Dookie?
It's Dookie.
hook,
Okay. Yeah, you got an argument there. Yeah. There's got to be something. No, foot. Dang it. Toot! Toot!
crook,
Toot! The word
Rook.
toot. Moot. Poot? Shoot! Shoot! There you go! Nuke! Shoot! There we
I just gave you like 10 examples
I know,
of it. Okay.
yeah. English is a dumb language.
All the languages are dumb. Have you seen the one,
English is just extra dumb because it borrows dumbness from all of the languages.
Have
if
you
a language
seen-
has something dumb, English
Francis
borrows
said,
it.
say toque, Daniel.
have you seen the people do videos of French words where like in French there's like 12 words that sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so when you string them all together in a sentence, it just sounds like fu 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 fu.
Yes, I have seen that. Those are great.
So at least French is dumber than English.
Yes. Agreed. French is dumb.
So
France is dumb.
So,
I'm sorry. My vote goes to Micah Schroeder.
yeah, so here's the thing. I'm only
He just
trying to
has
talk it out.
Explain why he's having
Right.
trouble.
Right. Yes. Sorry.
I'm only trying to talk it out.
I sabotaged you with the nuke sack. My
I
bad.
haven't even voted yet.
Okay.
I'm only trying to talk it out.
Process it with us.
So, like, from a statistical standpoint, Micah Schroeder just did something very uncommon. Like
Bonkers.
Assuming that the official stats come back, what we got from Ian,
Yeah.
which, again, I really wish we had access to that stuff now. We haven't seen a lot of games like that. And then, on the flip side, that game for Aberdeen, again, I hate doing this because it sounds like that I'm like degrading what the game was. But it was a game against a pretty bad team that guarantees you a pigtail playoff game. And
It also guarantees you the only shot at the playoffs
Sure.
outside of somehow beating Tumwater or WF West.
absolutely.
So
agree.
you can spin it the other direction too.
To me, that's not a spin, but I totally get what you're saying.
Well, there's two teams that nobody in our area could beat.
I could beat him.
Yeah, you think Monty wants to go up against WF West and Tumwater
You think-
or play a game the week after?
I feel like there's a reason why those teams are never on the schedule
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yet Aberdeen has to play him every year
and lose.
and get injured.
Okay.
Yeah, but Monty doesn't want that noise.
You know what? I don't.
They'd
wanna,
rather go play Napavine,
Or nuke
which
sack.
makes sense because they're at least, yes, they'll get beat, but they won't get hurt. That's my argument. Is so Aberdeen and
I'm glad you got a chance to
Yeah.
make your argument before I ever even made mine.
no, you're still processing through it. You were talking about how Black Hills is really bad.
Yeah, I mean, Monty played Black Hills. They kicked the crap out of them.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at like,
But also, you told me at that point that Black Hills was really hurt. And that's why you picked Monty, because you said, I heard Black Hills had a bunch of injuries.
I was gonna pick Monty anyway, and I believe Monty was the favorite. And actually,
know.
you know what? To be honest, you painted what I said so unfairly.
Yeah,
I went
I
back
did.
and listened to that episode, and I was like, Daniel's a liar. I did not say Black Hills had a good chance.
I know.
I said from the beginning that Monty was a huge favorite there.
That's true.
So
That's true.
I'm trying to weigh out, like, you have, if you go by RPI, if you go by Evans rankings, if you go by the coaches poll, like, Monty just played a team that was anywhere between 1 and 6 in every ranking,
Right.
in a spot where they desperately needed a win, to better their opportunities in seeding because of the failure of the previous week against Rochester. This was a huge game on a higher scale against a significantly better team than what Aberdeen was playing. And so I'm only trying to balance out performances in this game based on the opponent and the scale of the win. So
I see what you're doing.
yeah.
It's not generally something we've put too much weight on when it comes to.
We haven't put weight on the level of opponent.
We have put some, but remember
We've used
what
them as accelerators.
We've done it as slight accelerators in really close performances. We almost downgraded Jump away from like a 7 touchdown performance because it was against Fart Vancouver
We didn't
last year.
almost downgrade him from it. I tried to paint it afterwards like we almost downgraded, but we really didn't.
Right, but
And I think it was 6 touchdowns.
Regardless, we talked about it.
Yeah.
This is also one team fighting to get, like you talk about an important game. Mm-hmm. You can't paint this like this is a more important game for Montesano than it is for Aberdeen. This is one team having a chance at making the playoffs, and this is another team playing a non-league opponent that will be in state anyway, but maybe not as good of a seed. That is not even close.
No, what I was trying to paint it as and maybe failed to communicate properly because, again, I'm trying to be guarded against, like, degrading or downgrading anything.
Right.
It's a game that helps them get further in the playoffs than Aberdeen has a chance to.
There you go.
You made me say it out loud. It's a game that helps them have a significantly better chance at getting a home playoff game to get into the state playoffs.
I want to make you say something else out loud. Does Montesano have much of a chance of the deep playoff run this year?
How deep?
You heard my question.
I need you to
You
define.
just said Aberdeen doesn't have a deep chance. Will Montesano? Okay, will they win 2 playoff games this year? Will they make it past the round of 12?
I think that's possible. Yeah,
I don't.
I
don't think you do either.
I absolutely do. They just beat a team that's in the top 6. All you have to do is be able to beat a team that's in the top 6 to get to. I'm not saying that it's likely.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. But they would also have to get a good matchup in the first round.
I mean, to be completely honest,
Which
it's
last
been
year we
really
saw a
difficult
significantly
over the
better
last several
Montesano
years.
team.
It's been a very difficult over the last several years to get one state playoff win.
Exactly.
So if they get one state playoff win, I'd be thrilled with that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But these aren't even called state playoff games this year.
No, I'm
Like
talking
this-
about winning a game in the round of 12.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Super happy with
Yeah.
that.
Francis is pointing out that Monty just lost to Rochester, who lost to Tenino.
So I'm also
Exactly.
assuming that because of the fact that when you get to state it's a round of 12, the top 4 teams get an opening round bye, which means that if you're the 12 seed, you're playing the 5 seed and going inward because they have to narrow it down.
How are they going to do that?
I think that's how they do it when they do like because like 2B often has a bigger one. There's teams that have to like play in to get to it. So I will assume that in a 12-team playoff.
So that makes way more sense because you're assuming that if they're like 10, they're playing 6 instead of playing.
Well, if they
3.
were. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Gotcha.
Can you be one of the top 6 to 8 teams? Like, absolutely,
Gotcha.
they could be one of the top 6 to 8 teams.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Well,
So-
they'd have to be in the top 6.
I was trying to avoid going through all that because I didn't want to say that I don't think Aberdeen has a chance once they get to that round of 32
Right.
of winning a game.
Right.
But
And I'm sorry, but I don't want to have to get into this either, but I don't think Monty's got a shot, this Monty team. I mean, we saw last year's Monty team lose in the first round of state, and I don't think this year's Monty team is anywhere as good as last year's Monty team.
it's a different story because last year's Monty team played nobody all year, kicked the crap out of everyone, got totally shocked in the first half, and then by the time they figured out that they were better than Freeman, it was too late and they couldn't come back.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, is that a loss that's going to haunt me for the rest of my life? Because that was my son's senior year. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up, jerk.
I will. I will bring it up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Nick agrees with Daniel.
Nick, I'm not watching your podcast anymore.
You didn't watch it anyway. You couldn't even remember the name of his podcast.
Literally watched it this week, Daniel. That's where do you think I get 60% of my information from?
I mean, it's not like Micah did this against Centralia. You're painting Black Hills to be Centralia. You're making this sound like you did it against Fart Vancouver.
I think that you're projecting things on me that I'm not doing. Like, I'm trying to passively point out, like, here are the subtle differences between the different candidates, and you're just attacking me.
I guess I'm bringing this up because you're bringing up subtle differences when one of the performances is so far vastly beyond any subtle difference talking point. Like, I don't get why this is a talking point. We had a dude rush 35 times for 278 yards and 3 touchdowns. Why are we bringing up subtle differences? This is the most slam dunk situation we've ever had in our life.
For nuance, and I disagree.
Nick's walking it back. Apparently he didn't mean he meant Aberdeen had no chance.
What were Tarek's stats?
No, you didn't even here's the thing. Like, every time I tried to make a point, you instantly jumped all over me, and you didn't even let me. I haven't even gotten to the guys that I would want to nominate from this.
Okay.
You haven't let me do anything.
I will leave the room and let you talk about all you want because this is ridiculous. But you can have the floor.
I mean, we do have. Oh, you have to go to the bathroom. I see. I mean, this is a podcast that is like intended to like recognize local high school athletes, and I was trying to recognize local high school athletes.
We try to recognize as few Montesano athletes as possible.
That's so not true. Yeah, we have so many Monty athletes, but we haven't the entire regular season. We haven't had a single Monty football player. I tell you that much. And also, we have had Micah Schroeder once as athlete of the week. So my pitch was going to be that we do an offense-defense combo of Felix Romero and Torin Kreitz. Torin had, playing through injury, 12 catches for 179 yards and a touchdown, and Felix definitely was the spark plug for Monty on defense. I don't know how many tackles he had, unfortunately, but it was a lot. He had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery, including the fumble recovery that pretty much sealed the game, even though it didn't exactly seal the game, but it pretty much sealed the game at the end. So I was going to propose that one side of the possibility be Micah Schroeder and his huge game that he had in helping Aberdeen secure a pigtail game, and then for Montesano that the proposal would be an offense-defense combo of Torin Kreitz and Felix Romero. And I think it's valuable to bring up multiple possible contenders in these. Not everyone on our show thinks it's valuable to bring up multiple possible contenders, but I do feel like it is valuable to bring up other possibilities. So I wanted to throw that out there, and we'll just go by a fan.
Your pitch. Do you feel comfortable with?
I feel comfortable with everything that happened except for the way that you attacked me for talking.
Francis wants to know what Schroeder's stats would be if Hale was still a Bobcat.
We don't need to get into that.
Well, also, we don't know. I mean, you talked about, I think it's really funny that you're trying to paint this picture that, like, I'm being ludicrous here.
I didn't say you were being ludicrous.
By saying that I was, like, attacking you for talking. We recognize people all the time, but trying to get into, like, the nuances of, like, saying Black Hills is a garbage team and bringing that up in this situation is a little out of the ordinary. That's all I was pointing out.
Super is not. We talk all the time about level of opponent. And
we do, but not in this situation.
Your failure here was you made it too complicated.
All you needed
to go is all you needed to do is just argue.
We don't usually do it when we have a performance this crazy. That's my only thought. Okay. The only time we've come close to doing it when we've had a performance this crazy is when it was like the worst team in the state. Not like a team that would be getting a playoff chance if they won. Like, it's a little bit of a difference. That's all I'm saying.
My only contention in this whole conversation is that I was trying to throw different things out there and you got really emotional. And besides that, I'm comfortable with all of it. And from the very beginning, I was like, we kind of got a couple of options here. I can see that there's a clear favorite. I want to just like, hey, let's go out there and just present all the information, and then we'll make a decision from there. Right. And it was like impossible to present all the information.
Okay, whatever. That's...
You know what? I think we should just skip Athlete of the Week this week.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll go no Athlete of the Week.
Gabe Bodwell. Gabe Bodwell, when he rushes for 35 times.
You know what? I need
yards.
to appease Daniel here.
Yeah.
Who's our best performing
You know
Grizzly
what?
of the
When Gabe
week?
Bodwell did that, we definitely came up with multiple people on the same team and combined them together to make that a different award. We did that all the time.
Nominated any 8th graders?
Right.
We actually did a combined Athlete of the Week with Gabe Bodwell once. It was Gabe and Mateo Sanchez.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, when Mateo had like 15 tackles.
Yeah, we didn't do it, though, when there was like somebody else who had like 300 yards. It was like, oh, we also want to recognize Mateo because he also had a really good game. And Gabe Bodwell could win it every single week.
I think that you will listen back to this show and realize how unreasonable you've been through this whole segment.
I'll listen back to it.
One thing that I trust about you, Daniel, is that you really examine yourself and your behavior really well. So I believe that with hindsight, with the benefit of hindsight and probably some prayer over the way you discuss these things, that you will look back on it and realize that I was right about everything.
You generally do think that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's generally true in my opinion. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you get under my skin enough. I grew up around enough people who always thought they were right, too. So it just stabs me right in the stomach.
It's kind of a Hargrove thing.
It is.
Yeah, it's you too.
It's absolutely a Hargrove thing.
It's actually you too, though.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
And if anybody is curious about whether it is true for Daniel, just listen to the last 15 minutes of this show.
My guy, I'm not even going to present it anymore. You can take it over.
So Gabe Bodwell,
okay.
Spivey Athlete of the Week.
I said I was handing it over.
Handing it over to me?
Yeah.
Oh, you're letting me make the decision unilaterally?
Yes.
Well, you already voted.
I did. I placed my vote.
Yeah, and I already
said that early.
I already presented my thoughts.
So go for it.
And
what do you want to make Andrew a tiebreaker, or do you want to place a vote?
Well, I mean, Andrew, like by rule, is the tiebreaker, but we don't even have to ask him what it is because one of the options is a bobcat. So.
I'm obviously
right. Absolutely.
So, very deservedly, without question, Micah Schroeder of Aberdeen football for a stellar performance of like darn near 300 yards on 35 carries, rushing for like 7 yards per carry and 3 touchdowns. Micah Schroeder, for the second time this football season, is our Spivey Athlete of the Week.
We're going to take a break and come back with some regional sports after this.
Spivey Realty Group's goal is to make buying, selling, investing, and renting real estate in Grace Harbor simple. They believe in 100% transparency and unparalleled communication with local expertise, tech-enhanced, and top-notch service for their friends, neighbors, and community. Their goal is simple: get a group of strong-willed, hard-working people together who want to make a difference in Grace Harbor and to use real estate as the means of achieving that. Voted Grace Harbor's best real estate company. Find them on Facebook or visit graceharborrealestate.com. Spivey Realty Group, elevating small town real estate.
We're in the third period of what apparently is a hockey show. Let's get it going with the 2-minute drill.
Let's go, huddle up. Gotta hurry. Hey, 2-minute situation. 44 seconds, hand the ball to the ref. Gonna do it right. 3 jet Buckeye, don't worry.
The 2-minute drill starts now.
Shohei Ohtani. Oh wait, this question actually didn't age very well, did it? I wrote it earlier before the news came out that Ohtani was going to play tomorrow. Shohei Ohtani injured his left shoulder on a steal attempt on Saturday during Game 2 of the World Series, which the Dodgers lead 2-0 against the Yankees. Daniel, what impact will this injury have on the series?
I think it could have a impact if it affects his swing. He could even go, but if it makes his swing tougher to do, it could play a role. Dodgers in 4. After going 1-6 with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, the Cleveland Browns took down the Baltimore Ravens today with Jameson Winston passing for 334 yards and 3 touchdowners and no picks. Justin, with the Browns considering moving on from Watson, should the Browns consider moving on from Watson, and can they?
I'm not entirely sure what a cuterback is, but it's possible that people might listen to this show and just think you don't know how to pronounce words. Also, and I'm sorry for laughing because I know that just makes it more. Also, I realize that this is the second week in a row we've had a Cleveland Browns question in our 2-minute drill. I don't think it's possible that the Browns can actually move on because I looked up what the dead cap hit for the next 2 years would be, and combined in the 2 years, it's like $146 million. Deshaun Watson might just end up being the most expensive injured/backup quarterback in the history of the NFL, and the Browns are absolute morons for signing that fully guaranteed deal that other teams already hated them for. The Pac-2 leading Washington State Cougars came back from a 12-point fourth quarter deficit to beat San Diego State 29-26 on Saturday. The Cougs now are ranked number 22 in the AP poll with 4 games remaining. Daniel, what is the ceiling for your Cougars this season with 4 games remaining, including the conference title game against Oregon State?
Natty. Yankees star and the likely AL MVP Aaron Judge is batting 150 through 11 games this postseason. Rough. If his bat doesn't wake up, can the Bronx Bombers win this series?
I mean, luckily for Aaron Judge, who I have a really hard time disliking because he seems like a pretty likable dude. Luckily for him, Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton have been absolutely raking. I think one of them has 4 home runs and one of them has 6. Soto's batting like 350 and Stanton's batting like 289. So they're kind of making up the difference, but they haven't faced a team like the Dodgers yet with 3 MVPs. Like there's literally 6 MVP hitters in this series. So yeah, they're probably going to need Judge, especially in a 2-0 hole down, to come back and be the Judge that he was for the last 2 seasons.
Never want to be in that 2-0 hole.
Where is that hole located?
You're going to have to point it out on a diagram.
It's located in New York, New York.
100%. 100%.
How happy are you guys that it didn't end up being a Subway Series?
Pretty darn.
Yeah,
I'll
pretty
be
darn
honest,
happy.
I don't particularly hate the Mets, so in a Subway Series, I would have found myself pretty heavily rooting for the Mets.
Oh,
yeah,
samesies, yeah,
but
for sure.
but yes, New York people would have been intolerable.
Yes.
Also, like
100%.
Like the Subway Series by ratings was actually one of the worst rated World Series of its time.
Well, shocker.
Because the whole country was isolated
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah,
And so
it's
this
like-
is super ideal for Major League Baseball. But I think I was going to say, oh shoot, what was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say the Mets kind of became this like plucky underdog story, which is hilarious because they had a massive payroll.
Right.
It's really funny. They just started bad and then ended up playing really well at the end. But I mean, is there anything interesting to talk about from the World Series? I haven't been watching. I've been kind of following
The
what
first
happens.
ever walk-off.
Yeah, the Mets
grand
had the highest
slam.
payroll in the league, by the way.
Freddie Freeman got the first ever World Series walk-off grand slam in the first game. It was
After they walked the guy to
It
get
was-
to him.
Oh, they walked guy to get to him, and
Yeah.
then he
Who did they
dinged.
walk? I mean,
who's in front
Would
of
it be
Freddie?
Mookie? It would be Mookie, right?
I think
I
so.
mean, like, pick your
Yeah.
poison. Like,
Walk Shohei to get to Mookie to get to Freddie Freeman.
right? Like, exactly. What are you gonna do? No, thank you. As a pitcher in that situation.
They also, I think they were questioning Boone's pitching. selection decisions,
with
too.
Nestor
I
Cortez.
think so.
Yeah, like,
But I mean, that's all you're gonna. It's good. You can't. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter what you did.
Yeah,
it's gonna be
exactly.
the wrong answer.
it's gonna be bad. Absolutely. Other than that, I don't know. It's the World Series between 2 of the highest paid teams in the league, and one of them's got freaking Shohei Ohtani on it. So I'm gonna root for him because I kind of like him, but also be extremely pissed off that the Mariners didn't pay him $1 billion.
Yeah.
Because he would have been worth every B in the billion.
Yeah. I think it's funny to have those conversations
You
too
would've been worth
because
all of the letters in the billion. It's not just the B's.
it's funny to have those conversations too because all the letters in the billion. Because like it makes it seem like money is infinite. That it's like you can pay any amount of you could pay $1 trillion for Shohei Ohtani and it doesn't matter because there's endless streams of money. I'm not sure
And
if
that's not even including his gambling money.
I know. Dude, isn't it funny how fast that story went away, though? Like,
Dude.
have we had a gambling...
Has it even been? Has there been any resolution in that story, or is that still
Yeah.
just ongoing? I
Didn't his friend just admit, "Oh, this was all me," and go to jail? Isn't that what happened? Am I wrong about that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't know.
I mean, he basically did.
He basically did admit that it was him.
They just fall guide that guy.
But I don't think that's the thing. Is I don't think that Shohei was the biggest part of that whole investigation. It was just a side piece of a way bigger,
the cabal,
a way bigger illegal sports gambling sting that the feds were doing. And then in the course of this thing, they were like, "Hey, there's a bunch of these stubs with Shohei Ohtani's name on them," and that's how that came out. So I assume that there's a lot more like court stuff and investigation stuff going on still.
His former interpreter and close confidant admitted to stealing nearly $17 million from the MLB star to fund his spiraling gambling habit.
Is it a habit?
Nothing to see here, people.
Yeah.
I feel like a habit is one of those things that you're doing without thinking about. I feel like at the point where you're stealing money to do it, it deserves a stronger word.
Oh, excuse me.
Like,
they cut off the last word of that sentence on the little one-line thing. So his spiraling gambling debts.
Oh.
Yeah, I put habit in there.
Got you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was trying to fill in the blank. Yeah.
That's rude of me to
Ippei Mizuhara, accused of stealing $17 million. Just bonkers. Anyway, moving on. It's time for Justin's favorite part of the show.
I want to talk about Geno.
Oh.
I want to talk about all the quarterbacks in the league that you would like to have over Geno.
My favorite part of this argument we were having before the show was when I brought up Baker Mayfield and said I'd rather take him. Well, Baker Mayfield statistically is having a ludicrous season. So, Andrew, have you been watching NFL football since that was the answer you gave me when I said I wanted Baker? Like, he has almost as good a stats as Geno Smith, who...
Only almost as good?
Yeah. Well, it depends. Are you going about yards? Because by yards, Geno's leading in yards, but Baker is second. Completion percentage, that's Baker Mayfield has him there. But
I think and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Andrew, but I think Andrew was talking about how Baker's been lately, and in the last 3 weeks he's thrown 8 interceptions. Or 7 interceptions.
Yeah. So, there's that.
Yeah. Let's go team by team.
I would still take Baker over Geno.
I'm going to pull up the standings. Daniel, so would you take Josh Allen over Geno?
Yes.
You think that Sam Howell should be starting. So you would take Sam Howell over Geno.
I would say I don't know what Sam Howell is.
He's great. Go Heels.
I would say we should find out what Sam Howell is.
Great. Go Heels.
I don't know if he's better than Geno. But what's the point of having a 35-year-old starting quarterback?
Can I make a, like, I'm not ready to throw 100% of my weight behind this argument, but if I was coaching the Seahawks and I thought Sam Howell was a better quarterback than Geno, maybe I shouldn't play him right now because the Seahawks offensive line is trash.
So you're saying that they're trying not to win as much as they could because they don't want to put a better player in.
I'm saying that the quarterback play of the Seattle Seahawks is not in their top 5 problems. That's what I'm saying.
Top 5 problems? What would you say their top 5 problems are then?
Defense.
You put a number on it.
Run defense.
Okay.
Run offense. Pass protection.
We're running out of things.
Pass rush. And pass defense.
That's all the things.
But you put extremely broad topics on all of those, and then
the only other thing
play is much more specific than any of those things.
I came up with all of those off the top of my head too, though.
The passing game's like the only thing left.
Yeah.
No, passing.
Wait, special teams.
Yeah, special. No, actually, special teams is a problem.
Okay.
So I would
so
actually
6 then.
Thank you. I'd put special teams ahead, and if you wanted to break it down more, I'd say punting, or punt
so
return.
7 things
return teams. We just fumbled a return at the end of the game here.
I think what this boils down to is
I guess I don't. When you spend a lot of energy talking about how Geno should, like, you don't like Geno.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the Seahawks play, and I'm like, I don't know if Geno's better than Sam Howell, but Geno's not the problem.
he's a problem.
There are so many problems. And once you got an offensive line that could do anything, and
offense.
you could stop the other team from running at all,
Yeah.
then I'd be like, I don't know, guys. Maybe the quarterback isn't good enough. But right now,
Here's a microcosm of one of my things I don't like about Geno Smith.
His face is very punchable.
And I mean, he's proven that, seeing as one of his own teammates punched him in the face. Geno Smith throws a pass on the sideline to fourth string, fifth string receiver Jake Bobo in last week's game. Bounces off of his chest, doesn't make the catch. Should have caught it. Geno reacts like Jake Bobo just punched his little kid.
He does that sometimes.
Geno Smith is
I mean, he reacts
a turd.
like that, not that he punches little kids.
He reacts like an absolute baby. And when, I'm sorry, you threw a pass to your fourth or fifth or sixth best receiver on the team and you react when he doesn't make a play like that, that's not the leader I want to play for. And yet everybody on the radio and everybody just talks about how much Geno is such a good leader. And I'm like, okay, show me when it's hard. And he hasn't. He's a great leader when he's, yeah, everybody wrote me off, but I didn't write back. All of that stuff. It's garbage.
I ain't
what
right
his
back.
body language today when they were losing, terrible. Like, give me a rest with this Geno's the best leader guy. Oh, he gets upset at people, but that just shows he's invested. No, we've seen that time and time again about people who get absolutely murdered for being bad leaders, and yet somehow he gets a pass constantly.
I mean,
and I'm tired
we
of it.
also saw that from Tom Brady.
Not really.
No, we did. Tom Brady was talking about it today during the game.
Some of not to his fifth, sixth string receivers. Like,
No, to his coach.
I could see that when he's yelling with his coach. That's a different relationship.
I'm pretty sure
And
Tom was
if
well
if
known
you're complete, if you're wait a second,
demanding his receivers be perfect and
Are you-
screaming at them when they weren't.
demanding his receivers are perfect, dude. The droppingest dropper of ever
I
drops
know.
was one of his favorite targets
Careful.
I know.
that he kept throwing to.
Careful, that's a Texas Tech Red Raider.
That
I
he
will
kept
defend
throwing
him.
to. And if you're comparing Geno Smith to Tom Brady in this argument, then I think we might have a different thing we might need to discuss.
No, I'm not comparing Geno Smith to Tom Brady. I'm comparing your criticisms to criticisms of Tom Brady.
I hate Tom Brady too.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
like
also, when you
That
win
would be a
6
better
Super
That would
Bowls,
be a better.
you get
argument
when
than
you
your
win
argument.
6 Super Bowls, you get a little bit more leeway to be a dick
Sure.
than when you are a guy who bounced around the league as a backup your entire life because you aren't actually that good, and then you get a shot and you start treating other people like they're poop.
I think Brady won 7.
Did he win 7?
I think so.
Whatever. Too many.
I
You
think
get
Daniel's statement still stands, though. It's possible to say that he had that credit after 6. He didn't need to win the 7th
Yes.
before he was.
That's my argument.
Good.
I understand it's not perfect. I understand that much of it is very much biased, but I will give my impassioned opinion about it.
I like
I
it.
just
Geno
think
is mid,
you're-
and they will be mid.
I just think that you're spending so much energy on it that you're not, like, you don't seem to be seeing all of the other way worse problems.
I see that. I mean,
Run
their
defense.
offensive line is atrocious,
Run
and their run
offense.
defense is atrocious.
They
outside
traded
of
for
those
that
two
linebacker
things-
to try to help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was
Shore
his
up the
first-
run defense.
This was
He
his
led
first
the
week.
team in tackles. He got run over on the goal line once.
I said that linebacker because I can't remember his name.
Ernest Jones.
I think so, but I wasn't gonna try to say
Byron Smith?
I don't think he was. Ernest was in there somewhere.
I just threw a random name out there. I thought you were doing the same thing. I mean, it was a Jones. I threw out a Smith. Maybe it was a Peterson. Maybe it was a Peterman man.
Peterman, man.
I just when it comes to the quarterback situation in Seattle, I think it kind of boils down to do you care if they make the playoffs?
Ernest Jones the fourth.
Let's say, Daniel, here's the hypothetical. Geno Smith might be fractionally better than Sam Howell, but Sam Howell has better long-term prospects. If you know right now that the Seahawks would go 9-8, make the playoffs, lose in the first round, would you rather have kept Geno in or had Sam Howell play knowing that you'll miss the playoffs but that he'll be better down the road? Or he has a chance of being better down the road.
100% Sam Howell.
So I think that that's the disconnect is everybody wants to celebrate levels of success. So where some people, and I kind of think that because of the success the Seahawks have had, you kind of get in this mindset of well, if you don't have a chance to compete for the at least the NFC title, then why are you even what's the point? Where a lot of people look at it and go, well, I mean, if they make the playoffs this year, maybe they can build on that and win a game next year. But in the future, next couple years, Geno Smith is going to age out just like you aged out of Gulls soccer. So I think your argument is kind of it's through the mind. It's from bitterness included. It's with the mindset of hey, if you can't compete to be actually competitive, if you're trying to just be a middle of the pack team that makes the playoffs and loses immediately, why even bother with that? Why not try to figure out? It's kind of the same argument we had with Drew Lock, right?
Not why even bother. Why bother when you have a benefit on the other side?
Right.
If you didn't have, say you had Drew Lock.
Yeah.
But you knew he was trash. What's the point of putting him in? There isn't one. But if you have a guy that you actually do think highly of and you want to see and you traded for to get, then why not take the benefit of him getting some more experience?
I mean, at least put him in the last 6 minutes of the game when you're losing by a million
when
points.
You're getting
to Buffalo.
absolutely freaking
21.
bum rush.
21 points.
Yeah.
Not quite a million, but pretty close.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's right next.
I think I'm actually, Daniel, I think I'm more with you in this argument of I'm not a Geno hater, and yeah, I'm a little bitter that that's probably one of the things that if you look at the first year after Geno was the starter, we got really wrong. That, hey, why don't you throw Drew Lock in there to see what we have? But it's kind of the same argument regurgitated in a way, except that
the
Sam
traditional
Howell
backup quarterback argument.
It's
when
not
the team isn't good, you always want to see the backup quarterback.
It's not that for me because Geno is old and you need a younger option. And that's what it is for me.
From my perspective, it looks like you hate Geno and this is adding to your Geno hate. That's what it looks like.
It could.
But what percentage?
I'm not gonna.
I don't know. It feels.
I'm not gonna deny that.
Out of proportion to reality.
I'm not gonna deny that 100%. But when you have an old fart quarterback, what's the point when you're restarting as a franchise? New coach, new everything, young players, roster turnover. Yeah, let's have an old dude play quarterback.
I mean,
that doesn't
you
fit
don't
with
have an
everything else
offensive
we're
line,
doing.
So maybe you are worried that your young quarterback will just get clobbered, where your older quarterback can get the ball out of his hands.
So
even
Tank,
if he's not doing it well.
Play with no quarterback, lose every game.
That's the if you're saying
The center snaps the ball every play. There's just no one there.
Literally,
You'll lose every game guaranteed.
just go for the Wildcat.
we had one of those this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lineman
that's
step
the
on
best
Geno's
argument
foot.
that you have, in my opinion. For what I'm saying,
yeah.
that makes the most sense. Is you don't want to ruin Sam Howell,
Right.
but that is
Look,
not how they're
I
communicating.
personally suspect that Sam Howell's not good.
That's rude.
And
Go
I
Heels.
base that entirely on the fact that I think they probably came in with a pretty open mind, and Geno apparently won. I'm just saying, from the outside,
Right.
the fact that they haven't put Sam Howell in suggests to me that Sam Howell is clearly not as good.
Here's the
like
problem.
that.
Here's the problem. Geno, in my opinion, hasn't done anything bad enough
I can't
to get.
support that argument other than that's what I assume they think.
Geno hasn't done anything bad enough to get benched.
That's fair too.
Geno is good enough to cost you your job. This is an old
but
saying.
see, he also
this
hasn't lost a game yet.
This is an old saying. When somebody is good enough to keep their job, that it costs you their job.
But Daniel, Geno hasn't come close to losing them a game yet.
I don't care. He hasn't elevated
he
them
has-
to winning a game yet.
he's gonna have trouble
You
elevating
see
the
this
defense.
all across sports. If somebody's good enough to keep their job but not good enough to elevate, you'll end up losing your job as a coach. It happens a lot. And that's
Yeah.
my opinion of
Usually
Gino. He's not worth keeping because he's not going to be the guy to go win a Super Bowl. That's my opinion. He could. I don't think it's in there.
I think that if you put him on a good team, he is definitely good enough. I think he's probably better than Eli Manning.
Right now? I mean, he's retired.
Yes. Right now, I think Gino's better than Eli. No, I just think
Eli Manning's going to be a Hall of Famer.
I know. I think that you could easily see Gino get on a hot streak and be good in the playoffs. I don't think you will see it because the team is nowhere near. But if he could put together a Joe Flacco season easily, in my mind, where all of a sudden he's good. He's not good all the time. He's not great all the time. But sometimes he's really good for 3 or 4 games. And if that happens in the playoffs, he could easily win a Super Bowl,
Well,
in my opinion.
Andrew, Chase disagrees with
But I don't think
you.
it matters because the Seahawks team is not being held back by their quarterback.
Chase says the Seahawks should bench Gino. He had like half a season being good in Seattle and has been okay to underwhelming since. Which
Yes,
I
thank you.
fully agree with.
That is what I've been saying this whole time.
And see, I don't disagree with that. I just don't think that means what you guys think that means. I think
You keep
that's
saying
what
that
it
word.
looks like when you have a mediocre, a mid quarterback on a crappy team.
Crappy team?
A team with maybe the worst offensive line in the league. And trail at like 27th before this game in the league in run yards allowed.
The rushing defense has been horrible.
It's been
I have a hard time
atrocious.
saying you have the worst. I don't know. You have a really good left tackle. So I guess the rest of the line is just that trash and injured.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
you've got
and
some
offensive
guys-
lines are always injured.
That's
Like you
true,
have
true.
to have depth behind them.
Yep.
But I'm not saying Gino's great, guys. You're all wrong. I'm saying, yeah, you're right. Gino's mid, but the team's worse than Gino. That's, I guess, my argument.
Chase points out that he, as a Patriots fan, he witnessed this logic with Mac Jones and it didn't work out. Now he has Drake May, who did get a concussion
And
today.
at least Mac was young.
Yeah, but
That's-
Drake May, he's popping off right now, man. He's been great. He's been great through
won a
2.5
game
weeks,
yet?
and then he got a concussion. Future of the NFL. But let's move
Did the
on.
Patriots just win today?
Yeah, they beat the Jets.
Yeah, that's
Isn't
right.
that hilarious?
Aaron Rodgers
Oh
lost
my
it.
gosh.
Oh.
If you were watching Red Zone during the witching hour, like the very end of the opening, there were so many awesome games going on. It's the most engaged I've been in the NFL for like a 15-minute span all year. Let's move on to my favorite part of the show.
I'm sorry.
Serving questions up on a silver platter where the points are made up and the rules don't matter. Time for Stump Daniel.
Stump Daniel is brought to you by the Law Office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz. And Daniel, I couldn't sleep last night.
Okay.
So I got up and I thought of an idea. And I thought, here's a Stump Daniel that will be really fun.
Francis has discovered how to talk mad trash without me getting offended.
What is it?
He's just targeting the Tar Heels.
That's really, it's hateful. It's kind of gross. Can you
I
put him
saw-
in a timeout?
As
No,
I saw
I'll
for
allow
the commercial on the NFL today, # stop the hate.
Which kind of hate?
Yeah, exactly.
That was a
Sports
thing
hate.
started by Robert Kraft, by the way. I would caution people against things that are started by Robert Kraft, especially if it's a massage parlor. Daniel, I went through our entire season of our high school football picks.
That's not good.
And by the way, I am crushing everyone. Did anyone know that? I'm crushing everyone? I went 5-0 this week.
You've said it enough. I think we got it figured out by now.
Andrew went 4-1 this week. The rest of you goobers were either 3-2 or 2-3.
Ooh, that's embarrassing for all of y'all.
Yeah, Andrew, you really should just be copying my picks.
I'm just leaning in at this point.
Daniel, I decided to put two sets of rankings together between the five of us. That's you, me, producer Andrew, Rob, who, in case you're uninitiated, is the former sports editor of the Daily World, really plugged in on local sports, and then Ian, the voice of Grace Harbor Sports from KWOK. I decided to go through all of it and figure out who's the biggest homer and who's the biggest hater. And the way I did that, why are you making that face?
Dude, did they just mess up statues on purpose?
Which one is it this time?
Dwayne Wade?
I haven't seen it.
I'm sorry, I just saw this pop up.
That's smoke. Is that a gremlin?
Right?
Is that like little person? Is it like Shaq with dwarfism? Like, what is this? I haven't seen someone get a statue right in years.
Right.
So, show Andrew that. Andrew, do you know what Dwayne Wade looks like?
No,
Okay.
no idea.
It's not that. So bad. Oh my gosh.
So bad.
Daniel, your task, should you choose to accept it,
Yep.
will be from 1 to 5 to rank who's the biggest homer to the least big homer in our picks. And the way I determined this, I know you're curious. You're like, how did you figure out who's the biggest homer?
It's me, without a doubt.
I calculated the amount of times that someone incorrectly picked a local team against an out-of-town
Oh,
team.
it's just this is a bad way to choose it. You should have done it specific to their
Andrew's not even letting you give yourself a chance to explain it, Justin.
What was your Andrew? Actually, I'm really interested in what
He's
you're.
just instantly telling you you're wrong, but I don't see you getting upset about it.
How many
Just throwing that out there.
Daniel incorrectly picks Hoquiam, how many times I incorrectly pick Aberdeen, and how many times you incorrectly pick Monty.
How would I even
that's
do
a-
that with you? Because you're a Bobcat one week and you're an Elma Eagle the next week and you're a
Yeah.
Merriam Night Owl the next week.
That's right.
You're unpredictable. You're a bandwagon fan. See what I did there? So
Yes, definitely.
Daniel, it's not just to figure out who's the biggest homer. It's to rank 1 through 5. Who has the most incorrect picks in which they pick local teams against teams that are outside of our coverage area? Rank us 1 through 5. You've already said you think you're the biggest.
Yep.
So you want to start there, Daniel, number 1.
Yep.
Okay.
Andrew number 2.
Okay.
Ian number 3.
Okay.
Justin number 4. Rob number 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. You only got 2 out of 5. That's wrong. You
Bummer.
fail. Wah wah.
Terrible.
You did actually get the first 2 correct. You are the biggest homer with 12 picks. Mm-hmm. Andrew is the second biggest homer with 11. You had Rob at 5. He actually finished at 3rd.
That's a function of Daniel being a Grizzly and me being
A Bobcat. Yeah.
and our team's not winning every week.
Yeah.
You pick your team every week also, but you win more often.
That's true. Did you not pick Monty once this year?
Daniel, can I tell you a secret? I'd have to go back and verify this, but I think in the 3 years we've been doing this, I don't think I've ever picked against Monty. It just happens that usually works out for me.
Yeah. Weird.
Shocker.
So you had correctly you and Andrew at the top, but then you had Rob at 5. He's actually the 3rd biggest homer. Ian is the 4th biggest homer, and I am the least homer.
It is. It's definitely because he always picks Monty and Monty.
Hey, they've lost 3 games this year. 3 of my 7 have been picking
Your
against.
percentage just plummeted this year.
3 of my 7 have been picking Monty. I'd say that puts me at a disadvantage,
Absolutely.
but I still end up being the lowest homer rating. Daniel, I'm going to tell you straight out on the hater rankings, there is a number 1 and a number 5, and then the 2, 3, 4 all have the same amount. So I want you to give me the number 1 and the number 5. Who's the biggest hater and who's the lowest hater, and then who are the 3 in the middle?
Defined that?
Yeah. How do you?
Because that one I'm
Oh,
interested in how you defined it.
It is actually just the flip side. How many times did you incorrectly pick an opposing team over a local team and you were wrong? or an out of coverage area team against a local team, and you were wrong.
I got you.
I've got to be number one on the hater list.
You think you're the hater? You're the biggest hater?
I don't know, because you always trick me into thinking that Monty's not good, and then I pick an out-of-town team and they lose and they win.
Didn't happen with Black Hills. You made that up. That was a straw man. Might have kind of done that with Nooksack a little bit, but Andrew saw through me. He still picked Monty.
Yeah.
So you're claiming that you are the biggest hater.
Yes.
Who is the least of the haters of the five of us?
I'm gonna go with you.
You think I'm the least of the haters?
Least of the haters.
So that puts
Ian, Rob, and Andrew together.
I'm going to give you a point there. You didn't get it all right, but you got it mostly right. I am the least of the haters. I only got 2 wrong. You, Andrew, and Ian are in the middle with 3. Rob is the biggest hater.
Rob the hater.
Rob's at the top of the hater rankings. You're at the top of the homer rankings. I think that since I am at the bottom of both of these rankings, the flaw with the way I did this was actually that I just had the least wrong picks. So because
you're a homer, but you're homering on a team that wins.
When I first started this endeavor, I actually thought I was going to be the biggest hater, and so it was going to be like this funny thing of, oh, Daniel, you're the biggest homer, but I'm the biggest hater. And it turns out I just picked a lot less games wrong than all of the rest of you.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Devastating for you to come to that realization.
You know what? It's really hard. It's really hard to be this excellent and just not really be fully appreciated by my peers, you know? Like to continue achieving in this way and not have it recognized, it's a burden I'm willing to bear, but it's difficult. I mean, I can bear it because I'm strong, but an average person wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, you are so beaten down today.
Overreaction.
We have beaten Daniel down so badly with all of the conflict in this episode. You did too with your Geno Smith arguments.
I don't think I was beating anything with that.
Daniel, do you feel beaten? Do you feel like Andrew beat you with a stick?
With a stick? Maybe with a stick.
Maybe our dispute was a stick and yours with Andrew was more of a pillow fight?
Maybe it was more of a switch.
A switch. You got to go pick a switch.
Yeah. The worst punishment of all time. Go pick out your own switch.
I think
we got to get going.
Yeah, we do. We should end the show.
Yeah. I'm supposed to get my wife before the thing.
Oh.
So we're host. So that's going to do it for the scrimmage today. So for our sponsors, thank you so much for sponsoring against the law office of Jeffrey Adamashevitz and Spivey Realty Group. Thank you so much. So for my co-host, Justin, I got my GED, Damashevitz.
And for my co-host, Daniel, I've been beaten with a switch, Hargrove.
And our producer, Andrew, thank goodness I'm not the redheaded stepchild, Gross. You've been listening to the scrimmage.
He's the only one with no ginger.
Yeah.
You're pretty blonde. You just got ginger in your family.